Okay, guys, tip number two, and the last one today is on the rule of thirds. Now, you probably recognize this or remember this from, high school or some art course or something or other in high school. But the idea here is in digital photography or any photograph, this rule of thirds is to split your screen in three. So the idea is imagine a frame where we draw down this way, we have a column down here, and we actually have two columns, like a tic-tac-toe board almost. Now the idea is to start in the top right-hand corner, and that's where we get that circular motion that draws our eye. So we start on a focal point, and we come around our lead to the other side of the picture. If we started over here, it would be the same thing, and it would come around this way to the top. If we started down here, right, it would bring us down around and up. And if we started down on this bottom here, it would bring us down around and back up this side. So you can see in this picture here, the composition is that the girl is actually in focus here to the top right. We're led there first. We're brought down to, we see her dress, which is, kind of, she's flowing. We're spreading it out with her hands down to the snow and her feet. She's in bare feet. Maybe we notice that. We kind of draw our eyes back up to the depth of field over here. It's kind of bringing us back to the back and then up to these stars, which could have been photoshopped in. I'm not sure. The idea here is rule of thirds. Fundamental to photography, this rule needs to be learned well and executed to perfection. So, I mean, you guys got a tough challenge ahead. Think on your phone. I think there's a chance that your phone has something called grid. You'd have to look under options. It'll actually apply a grid rule of thirds to the picture, to your picture camera frame, and you'll be able to actually separate the photo. So in this case, I'm just going to do it with the pointer. You have 1/3 the houses, you have 1/3 the water, and the contrast at the bottom is 1/3 this stair, which is actually centered to bring us down. The leading lines are these pipes bringing us down to the water. We notice the reflection, and we're brought up here. So we're led again. Focal point is in the middle, though, which doesn't necessarily have to be. You could also say that you're drawn down here and then down this red pipe and then down this over to this building, which is the lowest point of the reflection, and then up to this building, and then we're brought over here. So this would kind of end like this and bring us around like that, back to this side. This side's definitely brighter. So you get the idea. Know where you place your focal point, then you will shoot great images every time. So in this one, if I drew a line across here and then I drew a line down here, my focal point might actually be right around here or right around here, which suggests the same thing. It is meant to lead our eye and catch our eye. The focal point needs to be off center and never in the middle of an image. The rule of thirds places it at a point that is very pleasing to the eye, as discovered by the ancient Greeks. Two lines across the image. Well, ancient Greeks used something called Pythagorean theorem, as you know, but a lot of their architecture and structures and art used this rule of thirds just to make things look good. Two lines across the image and two lines down the image, vertically and horizontally placed. Equally spaced, they cut the image up into thirds, as I was showing. Where these lines intersect are your focal points. The horizontal points are where you place your horizons. So here's my horizon line. This is another sort of a line, not my horizon line, but another horizontal line. And where they intersect with this vertical line are the focal points. So where the two cross is a focal point. The human eye loves to view subjects placed at these intersections. It's just what we're drawn to photographs like this. Magazine or travel book will show you. Take a look at how many times this rule is used effectively and see how your eye is drawn to them. So here's the grid. As you can see, this is what we're talking about. So these little intersect points are actually where you put your subject or your focal point, as we saw in tip number 1. So my focal point would be placed here. It could be down around here. So generally the idea is I'm starting here and I'm swirling out like this way, and I'm drawn to this side. I don't think I could go this way, actually. Might look better this way. So I'd start here, and my golden mean rule of thirds would bring me this way and up to this more mundane area of the picture. But the focal point's obviously the person, The boat is also in focus, so I'm drawn there. Again, there's another intersect line on this end of the boat, so it's nicely balanced between the two. And I'm drawn up to the more mundane background, which is a nice contrast to the more colorful foreground. Okay, so the center of any picture is not a satisfying resting place for the eye. So where is the best resting place? Imagine that the camera's viewing screen is etched with your 4 grid lines resembling a tic-tac-toe game. So like I said, your camera probably has a feature called grid or lines, and you can actually set it and see on your phone camera these grid lines, which will help you a lot using this technique. As you look through the viewfinder at the scene, place the subject of one of the imaginary grid intersections points, often called a sweet spot, here, 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 and here. This gives the image an overall dynamic balance. Composition works best when the focal point occurs. Okay. You can place a center of interest and a counterpoint at opposing intersections. So I'm not sure if it's the hydrant or the weird caged window, but the idea is if it's the hydrant, I am going this way from the hydrant, drawn up from the reflection to the window. If it's the window, I'm drawn from the window down the reflection back to the hydrant. One intersect line, the other intersect line. The point is that one brings me to the other, or one brings me up to the other. They're in balance. One's in the top left corner, one's in the bottom right corner. Again, this horizontal line here allows for the opaque wall to be one, I'd say 2/3 there, and the gray below to be 1/3 here. So you're not just aware of your intersect points and your vertical lines, you're aware of your horizontal lines and how you dissect the actual picture itself. So again, over here, another one, we have the egg. I don't know why this photo is a guy shooting an egg with a bullet, but we start with the egg and we're drawn to the guy. I don't think that's a bullet, that's actually his chain, but we're drawn to the egg. We're from the egg, drawn to the guy. He's out of focus. We see his eye, kind of an interesting one eye open. Back to the gun, maybe back to the egg itself. So the idea there is 1/3 over here on an intersect line, another third over here on an intersect line, or in that general area here. Horizontally, I would say that we have the egg on the bottom third, we have the guy and his eyes on the top third, the gun on the middle third. So everything well thought out, well balanced with rule of thirds. Usually be clear which intersection is best because whatever else is in the frame will either strengthen or detract from the image. So again, here, I believe this is the intersect right here. We have one line down here. We have one line over there. We have our bottom line going right through the clock or the watch, sorry. Our top line maybe right through or just under the dice. But the idea is this is definitely off center. This is definitely our focal point. I am kind of brought, I would say I'm kind of brought like this to the dollar, which is in focus. I look at the leather strap. I like the red dice against the brown. And then I see he's been drinking Corona, which I also like. So if you're a beer lover, you might actually go this way, right to the Corona. And then the gambling. But it tells a story, right? This person, what have they been doing? They've been maybe gambling with dice. They've been spending money. They took their watch off because they're feeling pretty relaxed because they're drinking beer. I mean, it tells a whole story. And the color and the composition's nice. The photo is balanced. The items are placed specifically. But again, focal point, drawn off center on an intersect, drawn this way around the picture. And here we go. We have puppy, little pupper. Balance the composition so that both sides are pleasing but not of equal size, shape, or color. So here we go. I have an intersect line here for the flower. I have an intersect line here for the puppy. The puppy's eyes are actually directly on one of the intersects. Here's my vertical. Here's my horizontal. He's beige. The tree is brown. There's balance on both sides. The flowers are kind of in the middle. I could even see balance here between the puppy and the flowers. Just a nicely composed photo, but not detracting at all. Again, here we have a boat. Rule of thirds would suggest our boat is the focal point. We come around, we follow the rocks, we see the sunset, we see the sun, we see the sky. The other one, some people have always said that this is actually where it starts, comes down this way and brings us to the boat. I like to think the boat is where we start, we come around this way. So again, rule of thirds would be intersect line here. We have a nice 2/3 sky. 1/3 stone, stone and boat. So we have a nice horizontal break, horizon line right there for the rule of thirds. And on the intersect is the boat. There's another intersect over here at the sun. So nicely balanced. This intersect and this intersect are in balance. So symmetrical photo, composed on purpose. Small area of vivid color in one part of the picture will balance a larger area of less intense hue. Again, vivid color, less intense hue, balanced. Not hard to look at both sides and see the picture for what it is. Here is a grid applied to it using objects to contrast. So we have the bark, we have the squirrel, we have the green, we have the light green. We have intersect lines over the squirrel that's in focus, obviously the focal point of the subject. We have intersect lines on the bark. We have a horizon line that puts the two horizon lines that puts the squirrel's face right in the middle of the on the right. So very pleasing picture. I'm drawn this way, following his arm. I don't follow this arm as much. I see the green leaf. It's just a nice balance. So a small animal will balance a large inanimate object. So here's a nice small squirrel balancing a large tree. Again, here's the circle at play. We have a spiral right here, all the way around. Very pleasing, very nice picture. It is centered, a little bit too centered for me, but it's, you know, we lose some of the leaf and the leaves here and their impact on the picture and some of the surroundings. This could have been done down in the corner. We could have seen more of the plant, but generally really nice. And here we go. We're starting here at the gentleman here under the tree. Seems to be the tree is the focal point or the gentleman, doesn't matter. We have a horizon line along here, obviously. It's giving us 2/3 sky, 1/3, you know, pedestrian walkway. If I start here, I come around like this. I go up to the tree. I enjoy the tree. I come over here and I start seeing the light. I'm drawn to the lighter area of the picture and down. If I was up here, I would come around like this and I'd be drawn maybe down this way. Oh, look at that interesting, you know, color or early morning, you know, setting. Look at the light. I'd be drawn this way. More natural for me right now is maybe up here and down, but more natural, I think, is starting right here at this individual and up. The boat, not necessarily the focal point. There's an intersect line here. The boat's in the foreground. We could start this way and come around. The idea is just showing you that it's, you know, it's encapsulated. We have 2/3 horizon sky, 1/3 sand, etc., etc. Foreground, background. Here's a focal point of the building, drawn this way, noticing the sky, and over here to see the balance of this and this on either side with the brightness in the middle. Nicely composed photograph. Different kind of lighting though. Light source was taken into account. Kitty cat, drawn here to its nose, and then over here to its whiskers. Some people are drawn this way. All depends. Billy goat, 1/3. Billy goat, intersect line, his face. 2/3 over here, so 2/3 vertical. Here we have one line coming down. The rest of the picture over here is honestly composed as mundane, sort of bland color, but it balances with the contrast in the color on this 1/3. The intersect line right here over the goat's face gives us something to look at, and the bottom third has some green in it, some color contrast in the lower mountain peaks. So that all very nicely balanced and composed. I have no idea how the photographer got up there to take this picture. Black and white photos work this way too. If you have that setting on your camera, here she is silhouetted. So light source and light were taken into account. She's in the top third. We have this way, we have it differently. Often we have 2/3 sky. This is 1/3 sky, 2/3 water. Here's the vertical intersect line. Here is the horizontal line right on her. I would say that the golden mean starts here, swirls around, comes down to the water, follows the pattern of the water. Then we notice the ducks. I don't believe I would go this way to the ducks. I would probably come from her, come down this way, notice the water in the foreground, her shadow, follow the waves which curl up a little bit like this, and then I notice the ducks and the lightness of the sky. So really nice, different use of 2/3 horizontal They're using the water as most of the picture instead of the sky. Think about that. Again, the cup down here, swirling up, following the pattern of the wicker table. Or I can go this way and up, or I can go over here and down. Either way, balance between the center of the table, balance between the cup. This is really well balanced between the two. The pattern of the table is circular. It's nice to look at. Nice photo. Simple. Things you can find in the school even. And nicely done. Apple. Starting with the apple. Following the leading line this way to whatever that is. And over here. So I'm led from the apple down into the foreground, which is in focus. And then I'm led down this long strip here is my leading line. So it's bringing me somewhere. Tree brought this way, I believe. I would not normally go this way unless that caught your eye. But again, in the eye of the beholder, the lines seem to bring me this way. Off center though again. Dougie. Parachute, if off center, would have been a bit better of a photo, but again, swirling me around that way. Fish, circular. Here's rule of thirds. Here's horizontal line, vertical line, horizontal line in the foreground water, horizontal line up here. Where's the focal point? It could be this boat bringing me around like this. And again, surfer bringing me around this way. Eagle, starting with the eye, brought around this way to see the contrast over here. He's off center too, or she. Sunflower, I'm brought this way to the sky. And bridge, probably starting over here, down this way, following the leading lines, bring me to the other side of the bridge. And there we go. On to the next one.